Hello and welcome to another video from Sapient Recruitment. My name is Nana. This is a video aimed at candidates and it's a few tips for how to conduct yourself in an interview, 3 do's and 3 don'ts in an interview. I'll start with the do's. First thing, seems very easy to remember, but you'd be surprised how often people forget. Make sure you greet, firm handshake, eye contact with your interviewer. Now, imagine a scenario where you're sitting in a reception room, someone comes to get you for an interview. It's very likely you're going to greet that person and they'll take you to the interview room. But you get there and there's 1 or 2 other people who'll be taking part in the interview. It's quite easy for you to just sit down and look to get started with the interview. I'd say when you get there, take the time to shake each person's hand, make an eye contact, because it shows you know how to meet people, introduce yourself, and make a good impression. And also, it will create a connection between you and the interviewer, which can only help your cause. The second thing I'd say you should do is take 1 or 2 printed copies of your CV. The reason I'm saying this is I've been in situations where someone's interviewing a candidate, and I've been pulled in as someone to come in and be a technical help for the manager whilst they're conducting this interview. Now, most of the time I haven't been told about the interview, I've been interrupted, I haven't had time to look at the person's CV or even print a copy of. Imagine you're sitting there, someone sits down and you hear them asking for a copy of the CV and their colleague says, oh, I only have 1, or we can share a CV. It's an opportunity for you to jump in and say, actually, I have a few copies. And then you pull out a copy. Imagine how helpful and how well prepared you'll look, which will only help your case. The third thing I'd say do is make sure you have 1 or 2 good questions for the end of the interview. Now, you can have some prepared. You should definitely have some prepared, in fact. But in the course of the interview, sometimes you'll be told something or given some scenarios which you'll have questions. Save those questions. At the end of the interview, when you ask them, it can get the interviewer thinking of you as an employee, which is always helpful when a person can imagine working with you. And it just shows that you're prepared, you're interested, and you've made an effort. So those are my 3 do's. Now for the don'ts in an interview. One thing I'd say is, and I tell people this all the time, do not badmouth or insult your former employer. It's easy to do, especially if you leave on bad terms, and you might think that you're justifying why you left, but what you're doing in fact is you're giving the person interviewing you, or the people interviewing, an impression of what you may be like when you leave. And that comparison is not going to help you in the long run. So I'd say don't do it. If you have to give a reason for why you didn't do something, or even if you had to criticize in some way a former employer, try and provide a mitigating circumstances. For instance, if you say, oh, they didn't have X, Y, Z, maybe try and say because of budget constraints, or something that doesn't make it look like you're just bashing them. Second thing I'd say do not do is do not interrupt your interviewer. Nobody likes to be interrupted, and you'll be given plenty of time to answer questions. When your interviewer is speaking, whether they're telling you about the company or they're asking you a question, you should be listening to make sure you understand what they're asking you and how you're going to answer. If you jump in and interrupt them, you're going to annoy the person. And 2, you might miss something and then answer a question out of context. Either way, not helping your cause, so don't do it. Lastly, I'd say do not discuss salary expectations or compensation unless you don't have an agent or someone representing you and you have no choice. The reason for this is the moment you start discussing salary, you move the person away from considering you, the qualities that you can bring to company, and then they start focusing on the cost that you'll be to the company. And trust me, that's not in your favor. What you want is someone to consider your qualities, decide they want you, and then, your compensation, as long as it falls between an acceptable range, is more of an afterthought. So those are my tips today. 3 do's, 3 don'ts. I hope they've been helpful. If you have anything you'd like to add, I will do another one of these videos, but if you have any suggestions or you have your own do's and don'ts, please feel free to add them in the comments or message me directly. hello@sapientrecruitment.co.uk. Love to talk to you. I hope it's been helpful. Have a great day.